Because we have Yom Kippur this month and Rosh Hashanah, I have been honoring Hebrew heroes. And last week I honored a woman, a very powerful Hebrew woman named Esther, Queen of Persia, and told her story. And today I'm going, and then some of the men said, well, you know what, you need to talk about men too. And so I said, all right, well today we'll honor a very powerful man, second only to Moses in Jewish history, and that of course is Abraham. And did you know that Abraham is the father of the Jews and the Muslims? They're stepbrothers and sisters, if you can imagine that. It's hard to believe that they don't like each other, but they are related. They have the same father. At any rate, let me tell you the story because it's a wonderful story. And I thought that, I found my Bible. I thought it was lost, but it was misplaced. And I thought it might be fun to tell the story right from here. Because the Bible, of course, is the Christianity's holy book. Everyone's got a holy book. This isn't the only holy book. The Muslims have a holy book, and the Jews have the Torah, and we have the Upanishads, and we have all kinds of holy books, but this happens to be ours. Now, this holy book is a compilation of history, poetry, novels. Last week I read the novel Esther, that was put in there as a novel. There's drama, Job. It's a drama that found its way into the Bible. So one day I'll tell you that drama. But today we're going to do history. And the thing about history in the Bible is that it's not really history as we know it in a history book, because it's an emotional history. That means that it's told by word of mouth, and people add and they say the way they remember it according to their own spirit. You know, when you tell stories that happened when you were a little girl, and then your brother tells the same story, you notice how it's different? Because you're remembering it from a different perspective. So, just so you know that the Old Testament, which is the Torah, which is the Hebrew book, their holy book, which comprises the first 5 books of the Christian Bible, because we are a Judeo-Christian movement. But those first 5 books are about history, and the history of the Hebrew people, how they started and got through Egypt, and then had this Exodus, and then the stories about wars and all kinds of things that they went through in the process of this Exodus. But before all that happened, before the Exodus happened, there was a guy named Abram, and he had a wife named Sarai. Not Sarah, but Sarai, and not Abraham, but Abram, because his name was changed once he was blessed. So many of you have changed your names. I have a friend in here right now who changed her name because she didn't like it. So if you don't like your name and you find a name that blesses you and makes you feel better, you use that name. At any rate, his name was changed as a blessing. So let me tell you the story. It's in Genesis, which is the very first book of our Bible and the very first book of the Hebrew Torah. And it begins on Genesis 12. Now the Lord said to Abraham, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you." And so it sounds like there was a big person in the sky talking to Abraham. But we know that the truth is that Abraham's intuitive God presence was talking to him. And he had this feeling, I think I need to move and go to another place and take all my children there. Because one day, I'm going to be the father of a great nation. What a crazy thought for a senior who is childless, and for a woman who is childless. Now again, I want to tell you that because this is all done by people who remembered things and wrote them down, that a lot of it exaggerates and is not totally accurate. There's a lot of emotion that goes into it. So you have to know that he probably wasn't 100, and surely Sarah was not 90 when she gives birth to Isaac. First of all, because in those days, no man would be married to a woman 10 years younger. They picked maidens that were 13 or 14. As soon as a woman reached puberty, she was of married age. And so it would be nothing for a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old to marry a 15-year-old girl. So there was a big discrepancy in their ages to begin with. Now, according to the story, to make it more exciting, they say she's only 10 years younger than he is, which makes her 90 when she conceives. Now, I do want also to point out that maybe 50 is becoming the new 40 because Janice Jackson just announced that she is with child and she's 51. And so, think of it that way, and it just makes a little more sense to know that Sarah was probably a whole lot younger than the story paints her. Okay, anyway, we go on, and then he moves. He does exactly what he's told to do. He moves, and then the story goes on and says, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Has anybody ever had a vision or a dream where you get information? Charles Fillmore had a vision of the word unity, and that's how he ended up being called Unity. So God comes to him in a vision, or this God presence in him is very clearly seen by him. And it says, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I cannot continue childless. So God is promising him, you're going to be the father of a great nation. Your children are going to number like the stars. He's going like, how is this possible? I am childless. I have no sons. And then Abraham goes on to say, all I have is a slave. You know, whenever they conquered an army, they took people in and they became their slaves. So Abraham had a slave as well. And he said, that's all I have living in my house is a slave male who's going to inherit everything. God says, no, do not worry about that. That presence in him enlightens him and says to him, no, do not worry. You are going to be the father of a great nation. And then he says, and so shall your descendants be. And this man that is in your house will not be your heir. He brought him outside and said, look toward the heavens and count the stars. If you are able to count them, then he said to him, so shall your descendants be. So God is saying to him, or this God voice in him is saying to him, if you could count the stars in the heavens, that's how many your descendants are going to be. And of course, you can't count the stars in the heavens. So he's being told that there's huge amount of people that will be his descendants. But it makes no sense because he doesn't have a child. And Sarah is also, according to the story, too old to bear a child. And according to the Bible, it says when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I am God Almighty. I walk before and I will make my covenant between you and me, and will make you exceedingly numerous. And then the story goes on to say, you shall be the ancestor of a multitude of nations. Imagine for someone who is childless. And no longer shall your name be Abram, but your name will now be Abraham. So after he gets this vision, this incredible, unbelievable vision, that even though he is a childless man in his 90s, and of course we know that's no problem, right? Because a man who's 100 could do that. So even though he's a childless man in his 90s, he is going to be the father of a great nation. Now, and of course he becomes the father of a great nation. And let me tell you how that happens. Because what really happens here is that, and Sarai becomes Sarah. Once he has this vision of what is possible, and he holds to this vision, he expands his consciousness. So Abram becomes Abraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah. And so now they have an expanded vision that is seen clearly as their names are increased. And they become a childless couple in the very first book of the Torah and the Bible, and who actually conceive a child and create an enormous nation. So I just want to tell you the story from our perspective, because these stories, the purpose of these stories in the Bible is that we can learn from them. We can also honor the heroes, and of course we honor Abraham as a great hero, but we also can learn from these heroes. And so when they're told that they are going to be the fathers of great nations, when you get a message, when you get a vision about something wonderful that's going to happen in your life, what is the first thing that you think of doing? Making it happen, right? It never occurs to you to relax and let it unfold for you, because after all, you've had a vision. You know what you want in your life. Just let go, relax, and let it unfold. But Abraham is just like us. So a few years go by, like actually 10 years go by after that promise. And he's trying to hold to that promise, but he's getting a little nervous. And Sarah's getting a little nervous, and she says, you know what? This isn't going to happen through me, obviously. I'm much too old for this. So why don't you take my servant and have the baby through her? And so Haggai becomes, that she's just, and she of course is a slave too, because she's somebody that they got from winning a war. She's living in the house as a servant and one of Sarah's slaves. And Sarah says, take her and have a child with her. And he does, and she has a child. And that child becomes the Ishmael, who is the father, or the one who is the leader of the Arabs. And but something happens in that story that happens to us all the time. Sarah nicely, generously gives her servant to her husband so that she can conceive this child. She's trying to make the vision come true. Rather than just relaxing and trusting that if it is your vision, it will come to pass, they try to make it happen. And what happens when we try to make things happen? They usually don't turn out very well for us. And so, of course, she starts to look down on Sarah. Ha ha, look at me, I've conceived a child, you don't have one. And it started creating problems in the house. And so Sarah had to kick her out. And she goes into the desert. She has this child, and it's a boy, and they call him Ishmael. And she's thrilled, and Abraham is thrilled. And on some level, he's thinking, well, it is my son, and perhaps this is going to be the father of the great nation. And he gets another vision. And the vision is, no, this is not the one. The one that's going to help you be the father of the great nation is going to be conceived by Sarah, not by Haggai. And so Haggai goes into the desert. And in those days, when you went into the desert, you died. There was no water. There was nothing to take care of you. But an angel appears to her in the desert and says, don't worry. I'm going to take care of you. And you too are going to be the mother of a great nation. And she becomes the mother, and Abraham becomes the father of the Muslims. And that's how that happens. Now back to Abraham. So now she's left. He's there with Sarah, and he's still holding on to his vision. You know, it has been said that pain pushes us until our vision pulls us. Pain pushes us until our vision pulls us. Can you imagine the pain that they were both in, especially Abraham, when he had to let his only son, he's never had a son, and he's had to let Ishmael go because there's so much stress in the household, and because he's told this is not the one. So there's a lot of pain, but pain pushes us until our vision pulls us. And since our vision for our life is our guiding principle, when we hold true to our vision and align with it, we find that things respond accordingly. And so that's what happened. Abraham started to hold his vision, and the vision was, I will be the father of a great nation. And it's going to happen through my Hebrew wife, Sarah, not through a Gentile, but it's going to happen to my Hebrew wife, Sarah. And he keeps his vision in front of him, which is exactly what happens to us when we hold a vision in front of us and don't let it slip by. And he uses his I am statement. In our class on Wednesday night, we talked a lot about the importance of an I am statement, because I am is the most powerful part of you. And so when you align your I am to negative things, you attract things you don't want. So he uses his I am statement to work for him. I am the father of a great nation, and it will be counted by the stars. And in order to keep him totally aware of his vision, he keeps it in front of him. He thinks about it, he speaks it, he knows it, he does it. And one day, of course, Sarah conceives and has Isaac. And the rest is history. And you know, another modern day Abraham said, "The universe does not know or care whether the vibration that you're offering is in response to something you are living right now and observing, or in response to something you're imagining." You know what? The universe doesn't know or care. If you're imagining something, then it's going to accept your point of view and match it. And so you could say, that is so far-fetched. Come on, that is so ridiculous. It's just something you're imagining. But the universe doesn't care if it's real or not. It's going to match it for you. And so that's exactly what happened. As long as he kept his vision in front of him and kept it alive, things started to happen. And because of him, we have this great nation that is numbered by the stars. And because of him, everything that he imagined and believed happened for him, and even more. And in fact, it was Abraham who started the whole concept of tithing, because when he conquered one nation, he went to King Melchizedek, who was the conquered king, and said to him, and he was the high priest of that nation, and he said to him, "I will give you 10% of everything I have." And that's how the ancient idea of tithing began. And he became I was going to say millionaire, I don't think they had that term in those days, but he became a very, very, very wealthy man and the father of a great nation. And he started tithing before that happened for him. So when we align ourselves with our vision and do what is right for us to do, things just come to us. They know our face. They find us. We don't have to find them. All we have to do is align ourselves with the vision that we want, whether it be meaningful relationships, wholeness, a new job, a new home, unconditional love, abundance of all good, whatever it is you need. If you align yourself with that vision and hold it and attach your I am statement to it, regardless of appearances, you will bring it in. You will literally pull it toward you. And you will start to walk boldly like Abraham in the right direction. It doesn't really matter if you're there. What matters is that you're walking in the right direction. And so what happened to him, of course, was he started to walk in the right direction, and everything unfolded for him and for the world, because it was a gift. He was a gift to the world. So the moral of the story is that when we live our lives fully aware of our vision, rather than proceeding unconsciously at the mercy of circumstances, which many of us do, when instead of doing that, we walk boldly in our vision, then we start to move in the right direction. And ultimately, we find what it is we're seeking. So our affirmation today is, I walk boldly in the direction of my vision. Let's say that together. I walk boldly in the direction of my vision. And so it is. And together we say, and so we let it be.
说